Hey everyone, History Mystery Man, just outside of Mitchell, Indiana, in search of the old Mitchell Speedway. And it was on the property you see behind me where the old Mitchell Speedway actually was. In fact, that's where the grandstands were. And then if you look behind me, you'll note that the tree line, it's hard to see, but it starts bending back toward the left. And that would have been, we're looking at turn 1 back there. And then, in fact, if we go to the aerial, you can see turns 1 and 2 where it still was. And of course, the little concrete piece behind me shows up as well. The track didn't live very long because there were so many fatalities. And I'm hoping to get in touch with a guy by the name of Wilson. Diz Wilson was a racer in this area who was very popular, very famous back in the day, and his son is still alive. And my goal is to chat with him and let's define this just a little bit more. So this is it. This is where it was. It was a high bank dirt track back in the day and treacherous beyond belief. That's why it didn't last very long at all. But that's it. The property you see behind me, the old Mitchell Speedway. I found it. So I should, you're Philip Wigley, right?
Yes.
And you're not Philip Wigley. Hi, how are you doing? Beautiful horses. So you own the property where the old Mitchell Speedway used to live.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. And so that's where it is over there. Have you ever had anyone stop on your property and say, hey, where is the old Mitchell Speedway? Am I the first or?
You're the first.
I'm the first? You're kidding me.
Yeah. No, I've never had anybody stop here. I've had people want to look for old coins and metal and stuff like that, you know,
But didn't care about the track?
They didn't care about the racetrack.
Listen, thanks for inviting me on your property and taking a look. I really appreciate it.
Well, then help yourself.
Thank you, sir. I wish I could come back and show you, you know, the old concession, the old garage area, or the old covered grandstand, but I can't. It's gone. According to the property owner, this is where the covered grandstand was. So, but it's amazing to me that they at least, someone left this last remaining artifact of the old racetrack. It's not much, but it's something. And I found it way out here in Mitchell, Indiana, on the outskirts anyway. Beautiful southern Indiana all around. But looking that way, off toward turn 1. Did you know Diz Wilson?
I did.
You did? What was he like?
He was a good guy. Heck
Was
of
he?
a mechanic.
Was he?
Yes. See, I don't know about the racing part.
He was more on the mechanic side.
He was.
Yeah, I gotcha. Do you remember the old Mitchell track at all? Were you ever there?
Oh, yeah.
You remember
I
it?
spent many a day out there.
Really?
I was there when they built it.
You know, I just walked onto the property and all that was left was like this little cement wall.
Right.
And
That's
Phil,
coming out of number 4 turn.
that's coming out of number 4. So Phil said that was where the old covered grandstand once
Right.
was, or was that actually the actual wall?
That was, they had a concrete wall just before you got to the grandstand and then the grandstand. But it was coming out of number 4.
So how long did the track live from approximately from what to what?
Approximately
I'm not going to hold you to the fire.
46 to probably, see, Dad was in that with Herman Davis. And Herman Davis owned the property. And I don't know how they worked that out, but then about 1949 or so, Dad got out of it. I don't know why or anything about that, but and then Herman, I think, ran it maybe till maybe 51, maybe.
And so it didn't last long.
No.
And as I understand, one of the reasons why it didn't last long is because in a short period of time they had so many fatalities.
Yeah.
Any idea how many?
I'm
If you had
gonna
to guess.
say there was probably 5 or 6 drivers, and I think probably 3 spectators.
Wow.
They got it.
Did,
Do you
did
remember?
the place get big crowds while it was
Oh,
alive?
God, yes.
It's just amazing.
They had, oh yeah, they had.
It was a high bank dirt track, yes? Like
yes, it was.
maybe a 3/8 mile, something like
It was
that?
about a half mile. Just,
Half mile.
yeah.
So why was it so treacherous? Was it the banks? was
Well,
it? I mean, that's a lot of
course,
people.
Back then, you didn't have the safety equipment they had, and
I understand, but you know, Salem, by contrast, Speedway has had 11 driver fatalities, but that's been over decades and decades. That
Yeah.
place only lived for 5 or 6 years, and now your dad, he was more of a race car chassis builder, a driver, both. What
no, he built them.
he built them?
Yeah, he didn't. He raced motorcycles, but he'd go. I'd go up to the Speedway with him after the 500, and he'd buy blocks where they'd maybe blowed an engine, and he'd come down there and he'd patch them together, and the crankshafts that USAC, they had to magnaflux them, and if they had a crack in them, they couldn't use them. Well, Dad could use them because he didn't turn the engine near as hard as they did
gotcha.
up there. So they called him a junk man from Mitchell.
But he made that junk work.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
Did your dad have connections to the Brickyard? I mean, did he
Yeah,
work on cars of the Indy
he was a mechanic
500?
up there in '55.
For who? Probably.
Dempsey Wilson drove 1 year for him up
At the
there.
Brickyard?
Uh-huh.
So you're talking about 55-ish?
55, 56, yeah.
That 55 was the year that Vukovic got
Yeah.
killed up there.
Her and I.
Did your dad live here in Mitchell?
Yeah, right. The garage is just right here.
Okay.
Where the store is now.
Do you
That's
have...
him.
That's Diz? Mm-hmm. Look at that big fat smile. He looks pretty dog.
He is,
Oh, you know who he's next to? I know that guy. That's John Markham, the founder of ARCA.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's who that is. I wonder where that picture was. That's Jim McElreath there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
World record on a half a mile.
this is Winchester. Mm-hmm. Is your dad in there somewhere?
Right there. And that's Johnny
Okay.
White.
That's Johnny White,
Yeah.
and he set the record that day
Yeah.
on the Winchester High
They
Bank.
got made $500. They gave him. Wow. He put up.
That was a lot
what's
of money back then.
This is taken inside of his old garage.
No, that's the old Rangers. Remember they used to. You run aircraft engines.
Aircraft engine.
Uh-huh.
That's so interesting. That
Yeah.
car ran at Mitchell Speedway.
Yeah.
Who is that?
Wayne Paget.
The
That's
other one
the
was
Ranger
40,
aircraft
49
car?
or 494.
Now that's the old garage, the cemetery right across the road.
Oh,
from
I
us.
just drove by that cemetery.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the aircraft engine in
Yeah.
that car.
Yeah.
Your dad put an aircraft engine in a sprint
Yeah.
car.
Yep.
Look at those old cars. No roll bar.
No nothing.
No, a leather Cromwell helmet,
No.
skinny hard tires, probably just a lap belt, Mobile Oil T-shirt. I mean, they were. Why'd they do it? I mean,
Yeah, there you go.
Iron Men. You did some digging, and did you have to go in the cellar for that? An old creepy cellar? No,
In a cedar chest.
I see your chest. What'd you say? You remember that tree?
Yeah.
You were probably up there hiding in it, maybe. I don't know. That's how the number 4.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, back then you didn't push them to start them.
You pulled
They
them.
pulled them, and they had a rope, and they looped it around the front axle. Mm-hmm. Went back to the driver, and he held on to it. And
Yep.
As soon as the car started, he pitched it like this, and I'd pull it in off of the back of the Jeep and get it out of the way so the car could go.
Sounds like a deckhand pulling in the
Yeah,
line from the
right.
tug off the barge.
Right.
Oh my gosh, I just noticed something. First of all, Mitchell Speedway, I love this picture. That's Cliff Griffin,
Yeah.
who was an Indy 500
Right.
star.
He sure was.
Wait a minute. That's the start of the race at Mitchell Speedway. That trophy was given. How do you know that? How do you just remember?
Well, you can read on it.
Okay.
Buzz Noble drove the car. He started right there. That's it right there.
That's him right there,
Yeah.
the guy that won. You're saying that the guy that drove for your dad's car ran off turn
Bob
4
West.
here, Bob West,
Mm-hmm.
and he hit that tree.
Yeah.
And that's what killed him.
Yeah. Well, actually hit the tree in a school. There's a school bus sitting there, and he ended up against the school bus.
But he did not survive. I certainly don't know much about Bob West outside of the fact that he was killed at Mitchell Speedway on September 29th, 1946. He was just 20 years old. We do know that he was a World War II veteran, as marked on his grave here. I tracked it down here at the Fairview Cemetery in Orleans, Indiana, where Bob West was from. And if it means anything at all, it took me about 40 minutes to find this grave.
But there's a car I was talking about that got killed in right there.
Which one? The one that, who?
Bob West.
Bob West. That's the car.
Yeah.
Is that the one that hit the tree?
Yeah.
Wow. Thumbs up. So that's you. Let me see. Let me see.
No.
Yep. That's you.
That's me.
I can
He
tell.
looks-
Same smirk.
He looks like his dad. Mom.
Oh, is that Diz?
Yeah, that's his
That's your mom and dad? And I assume your mom's gone too now?
They died 17 days apart.
You're kidding. Thank you so much for having me today. I so appreciate it.
No problem.
Long live.
Anything else? Why?
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thinking about Diz Wilson today. Is he buried in the cemetery
Yeah.
right next door?
Mom, yeah.
Oh, really?
There's a picture on.
I'll have to go look for the. Is it right across the street?
Yeah.
You moved into this house when you were 13?
And he was over there, and that's how we met.
So when did you, how old were you when you started dating?
13.
Whoa! I'm not gonna, okay, 13, I'm not gonna ask the next question.
We got married
20.
20 and a half.
20 and a half. That's incredible. That's an awesome love story. That's what that is. But you grew up in this house from 13 on,
Yes.
and you're still
But I
here.
was from Mitchell.
That's so interesting.
We have one daughter, 2 grandchildren, and 2 great.
In your house, Merle was just cat-cornered here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just right over where that Dollar Tree is.
I think,
Yeah, I just had to go across the alley.
I think it gets across the alley. When it rains, you still have stuff surfacing from the old Speedway, like an old piece of glass.
Glass bottles.
Isn't that something? Wow,
I
that's an old one because you can always tell how by the thickness of the glass. But you say you still have stuff that resurfaces all these years later.
All the time. I found a lot of stuff down there in that ditch by those trees. I found like it was a green, almost looked like a medicine bottle. Like, or maybe what they put liquor in, I'm not really sure.
Wow.
But it was kind of cool because we cleaned that ditch out. And there's all kinds of stuff.
You're still finding stuff all these decades later. That's interesting. Thank you so much for inviting me onto your property.
No problem.
Thank you. A relic from the old Mitchell Speedway. It's not much, but heck, all these decades later, that'll do. So at one time you said the people who owned the property before you said there was
not before us, behind us.
okay, behind you, that
Yeah.
a car flipped over the banking and landed in one of these trees up here.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly which one, but one of these trees had a car hanging off in it for years. So I've managed to talk my way onto the property next door to the Wigleys, and you can see off in the middle of the screen is that cement wall we showed you in the open. Okay, so now we're going to follow around through turns 1 and 2, and this is just incredible that the contour of the land, yes, is still here. This is, you can see a little hill here. That's turn 1. The banking is still there. It's all grown up. I'm starting to sound like I'm from somewhere, but this is the banking of the old Mitchell Speedway. You can see the hill going up. This would be turns 1 and 2. Talk to the property owner. They have not changed a thing in regards to the contour of the land. It's still all there. And there's a better shot. Look at that. That's the banking of turns 1 and 2, Mitchell Speedway. Look how clear cut that is, the banking. Still there. They haven't touched it. Just incredible. The people of Southern Indiana are so kind and nice, considerate. I mean, a perfect stranger wandered onto 2 properties in the last few days, and both of them invited me right in to show me what was left of Mitchell Speedway. I'm now just beyond the trees here, headed off into what would have been turn 2, and you can still see it. Can you see the contour of the banking? It follows it right around in a circular path that would lead you onto the backstretch. That's remarkable. Okay, so you're the property owner. That was really interesting. You were saying that it's still today hard to put a fence post in back there on the banking of the old track because it was packed in so tight.
Sure is.
Yeah.
Sure is.
Yeah, and you were saying sometimes you gotta let it rain first.
Let it rain for a few days, and then we can go in and drill them.
But
Because the clay's so hard.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. So the racetrack's still there.
Yep.
Hey, thanks for letting me on your property today. It's
you're
been
welcome.
super interesting. Just here paying my respects. Like so many of the drivers from that era, the immediate post-World War II era, Eldon Fleener was a World War II veteran, and he's buried here in Crown Hill Cemetery in Salem. You know, those guys came back, they survived World War II, but they couldn't survive Mitchell Speedway. And of course, Eldon's wife Helen is buried right next to him. She lived up until 1988. Their son Robert is also buried here. He died in 1973 at just 34 years young. Helen and son Robert were up in the grandstands, of course, the day their father died. I found at least 6 driver fatalities at Mitchell Speedway. And there were spectators, of course, killed. One guy just had a heart attack, dropped over dead. I don't know. I don't want to suggest that the place was cursed, but I can begin to understand why it had a short life.
Well, you know, I don't know how the insurance was back then either.
Yeah.
I used to tell you, I used to jump off of the, because I was sitting on that Jeep and pulled the rope in, you know, and his name, you remember Forrest Berry? Did you get that?
Yeah,
name?
it's funny you would mention that because he is one of the drivers that died at Mitchell,
Yeah.
and I was just at the Mitchell Cemetery next door to you here. I was looking for his grave.
He went off between number 1 and 2 turn, and the road went down like this. Of course, the bank was up here, and I jumped and went over there. He went through a barbed wire fence.
Oh, I read that in a newspaper.
Oh, and then I'm not talking about it, but his eyeballs was hanging down, and I tell you what, that was the last time I ever went to wreck. I'd wait till after they got the driver away.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
And I was 8 years old, so.
Oh my God, that's a memory that tends to stay with you.
I can still.
See that
Yeah,
as an 8-year-old boy.
yeah.
Oh.
He was one.
Yeah, well, I didn't know if you knew, but Bill Kimmel Sr. passed away yesterday at 91 years old. Frank and Bill's father. And I was just talking to Bill the day before, Bill Kimmel
right?
Jr., yeah. And he was telling me, because there's an old picture of Bill Kimmel Sr. in a number 70 Sprint car, which was your dad's
Yeah,
car,
he drove for
without the roll cage.
Yeah.
And Bill Kimmel Jr. Was telling me just the other day that everybody wanted to drive a Diz Wilson car. I mean, that was one of the hot tickets back then. And of
Well,
course,
Bill Kimmel Sr., he had a hell of a wreck at Salem.
he had a hell of a wreck at Daytona too.
He
There
had
were a
hell
few
of wreck
along
in
the
a
way.
sprint car. He went.
Oh, the one he went over the wall.
Yeah, coming down to number 2, he went clear. Them guys.
Was
who
that your
sit in
dad's
trees?
car?
No, I don't know who he was.
It was. I think it had Rebel on it or something.
It was-
But Bill Kimmel Sr. was one of the few drivers to go over the wall at Salem without a
live.
roll cage and
And
lit.
live, yeah.
Exactly. Talking about the car that Bob
Bob Swiker
Swiker.
got killed in.
Yeah.
They were supposed to destroy it. The family wanted it destroyed. And I forget who owned it. But anyway, Dad ended up with that car.
Really.
Yeah. And this is weird. You talk about something big. He sold it to a guy. Ended up, he got killed. Another guy got killed in it. Stan
Bowman.
Bowman. You remember
Yes.
Stan Bowman?
At Terre Haute.
That's the same car.
Same car that Bob Swiker died in.
So he,
And while I was here in Mitchell, I thought it would be appropriate to pay my respects to Cecil Abel, who lost his life at Mitchell Speedway on November 10th, 1947. He was only 21 years old, and he's buried here. World War II veteran. Salute. You know, you wonder why they did it back then, you know, the leather Cromwell helmet, no roll cage, barely restrained, maybe a lap belt, Mobile Oil t-shirt, had to reach out and hand pump, pull a brake, hand brake, and hand pump the fuel pump. It was, I don't know why they did it. I mean, it was so treacherous. But, you know, you think about it. So Cecil Abel survived World War II, 21-year-old kid. You think he's going to worry about, you survive World War II and you're going to worry about coming home and climbing in a race car at Mitchell Speedway? I don't think so. So the story just keeps getting better. Understand that Cecil Abel, they called him Bud, who died at Mitchell Speedway when he was just 21. His sister is still alive and lives here in Mitchell, and we're gonna. And Mr. Wilson, Merle Wilson, is taking me over to chat with her. So I'm super excited. Beautiful country out here. I believe we have arrived.
Hi, lady. Well,
Hey
I
there.
wasn't sure.
Yeah, and I know your brother, Bud, Cecil Abel, died at Mitchell Speedway. That was a long time ago, 1947. What a fond memory of Bud. What do you remember about him? What stands out to you? I mean, all these years later, do you still find yourself thinking about your brother?
Oh, heavens,
From time
yes.
to time?
My
Yeah.
brother and I were very close. He, what I remember, he didn't want me to date Wayne. He
That's
thought
funny.
Wayne was too old for me. And no, Bud and I were very close during the war. He wrote to me all the time and stuff.
He was overseas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Was that the first car he ever drove? I thought it was. That's what I told him. I said, I don't think he'd ever drove a car before.
He hadn't. Well, and he had a football helmet on.
Yeah.
He was wearing a football helmet when he died?
Yep.
Are you kidding me? Gosh, that sounds like the 1940s.
Yeah, he didn't a bit more know what he was doing. He thought he could keep up with Wayne.
Was he like a daredevil or something?
No, well, yes. He came down Warren Street in front of the little store where Mom was at, standing on the seat of that motorcycle.
I told him he'd done the same thing up by the graveyard. He come down when old 37. He was
Yep.
standing up like this.
Yep.
I can remember that.
Standing up with his arms out?
Yeah, just like that, standing on the seat.
He could, I'll have to say, he could handle a motorcycle. But,
Were you at Mitchell Speedway the day he died?
no, I was down Jeffersonville at my sister's house.
Do you remember?
We got to the hospital before he died. I mean, he didn't know us, but I was there when he died. So, he was a good brother. And
I never did know what happened, did you?
a fence post went through his head.
Is that what happened? After he went off that bank, right? I don't know about a helmet, but...
If he had had on a Carmel helmet like Wayne had, he might have survived. But, of course, he didn't know anything about racing. I've still got letters over there and that
You have a letter from Bud?
he wrote during the war.
Oh, gosh. Can I see it? I live for this stuff. Oh, wow. That's a letter from your brother Bud
Yeah.
from overseas in World War II.
Yep, you're welcome to read it. Open it up. And this was the Bible he carried.
That was the Bible he carried
Yep,
during World War II?
yep.
Oh, my gosh.
It's
That is
got a
incredible.
medal.
Oh, it's metal. Oh, that's beautiful.
I've
Cecil
got Dad's-
Menlo Abel, Mitchell, Indiana.
His mom had.
This is about the size of a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
As Commander-in-Chief,
It ain't very good shape. but I
take
got it.
pleasure in commending the reading of the Bible. Very personal identification card.
Yep.
Cecil Abel, but they called him Bud. A letter from Bud to his sister, his dear sister, Jeannie, January 12th, 1945. Well, sis, we all have our jobs, and I guess yours is to go to school and help around home. You are probably a big girl now, and I will not know you when I come home. Send me a picture sometime. Sure would like to have one of you. Well, sis, be a good girl and tell Sharon hello for me. I will close now. Your brother Bud, Cecil Abel. World War II, 1945. Your husband, Wayne, was a fighter pilot in World War II, yes?
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah.
So driving a race car would have been nothing for him. that would be like a Sunday drive, which they often were at Mitchell because they raced on Sundays. These are some of Wayne Padgett's medals.
Yep.
Wow, fighter pilot in World War II. That's really neat. And that's got to be you.
Yeah, that was me.
Beautiful lady you are.
Things deteriorate as
No,
they age.
I didn't say a beautiful lady you were. I said a beautiful lady you are. I see why Wayne Paget had his eye on you.
I thought it was, I dated 2 or 3 race car drivers.
Well, now.
You remember Pat O'Connor?
Oh, yeah.
Don't you went out with Pat O'Connor?
Oh, heavens, yes.
Are you kidding me? Pat O'Connor was a superstar stud in Indiana as a race car driver, and of course he had a bright future ahead of him, but he lost his life in the 1958 Indy 500.
Yeah.
You dated Pat O'Connor?
Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
I used to go to North Vernon,
Where he was from.
where he was from, and my cousin had a jukebox in the basement for the teenage kids would get it, and that's where I met Pat. Then he started coming down to Mitchell.
Oh boy, it didn't take him long to find Mitchell, Indiana. Or the beautiful.
He was a good kid. He was a very polite boy.
Was he?
Yes, he was.
That's neat.
Pat
I like
O'Connor
hearing
was
that.
a nice kid. And he was just a kid. We were just kids, for God's sakes.
We were in Belleville, Kansas in 1958. We were on IMCA when he got killed at the Speedway. When they had that big wreck.
That's many years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Yep.
But he used to drive down from North Vernon.
I would have driven from Albuquerque, New Mexico to date you. You kidding? You talk about coming from North Vernon.
Oh, good Lord.
For me, this old stone wall, concrete wall, I should say, it's a memorial. It's a reminder of not only those who raced here, but those who died here. Kind of like a gravestone. It's all that's left. A memorial to the men who did not survive Mitchell Speedway. History Mystery Man made the headlines in Orleans. I am feeling good about myself.